So I chose sleep science as my senior year project. And I chose to study sleep because I've never been a morning person and I wanted to know why that was. So my big three. So my topic is sleep deprivation, and I chose sleep deprivation because that's what I believe was the cause of my sleepy mornings. My question, so what are the effects of sleep deprivation on the mind? With this question, I went in depth into the chemical process behind sleep and sleepiness. I knew from personal experience that there's more to my sleepiness than lack of discipline. So, thesis. Sleep deprivation significantly slows and impairs cognitive function. I believe this is true because I know I perform better in all areas of my life on more sleep. So what I propose to change school start times later by an hour so students would receive an extra hour of sleep. I think that this is the key to higher test scores and GPA. Students would also have more energy in school, allowing them to learn more. So what this PowerPoint focuses on is teens, which is ages 10 to 17 on this chart, who need 8.5 to 9.25 hours of sleep. But the problem is that as you get older, schools tend to start earlier, and then it cuts into your sleeping time. So how severe is sleep deprivation? So everyone experiences sleep deprivation, but the problem occurs when it builds up. It's called sleep debt, which we're going to go into later. So some facts. So according to the National Sleep Foundation, 85% of teens receive under 8.5 hours of sleep per night, and 70% of adults reported being sleep deprived as well. So some health threats linked with sleep deprivation are heart disease, weight gain, and hallucinations in extreme cases. So on a deprived mind, you can have memory loss because memory consolidation takes place at night in your sleep. You can't notice patterns as well because your brain has trouble connecting things that goes along with memory consolidation. And you're 10% more likely to be in a car crash for every hour of deprivation, according to the National Sleep Foundation. So why do teens fail to get enough sleep? I believe there's three main reasons why. One is social pressures, like the need to text your friend back late at night or to stay up late to study to get into college of your choice. Hormones, which we'll get into in a sec, and school starting times, which is the biggest reason, I think. So melatonin, which is a hormone, it's a neurohormone that tells the body what stage of the circadian rhythm it's currently in. And a neurohormone is a hormone that's secreted by a neuron into the bloodstream. Melatonin also helps the body fall asleep and stay asleep. And it contains anti-aging properties that the National Sleep Foundation proved to be true in a study performed on mice. So this is circadian rhythm. It shows when the body's in its deepest sleep, highest alertness when bowel movement is suppressed, highest testosterone secretion, and even when melatonin secretion starts and stops. And this shows that melatonin secretion stops at 7:30, but kids are waking up much earlier to get to school on time, meaning they're being tired in school, falling asleep in class, and whatever. So what I tested, I did alternating weeks of deprivation and baseline sleep. So what this means is that the first week was a deprivation week, which was 7.5 hours of sleep, and then a baseline, which was 8.5, and then 6.5, then 8.5, then 5.5, and so on. And so I performed 2 types of mental tests and 2 physical tests on the Sunday of each week. And this is what they are. So the first mental test is the Haling's test, and it's a sentence completion test. And the format of this test is 10 sentences with the last word missing. The objective was to complete the sentences so it makes sense. The second mental test is a memory test, and the format of this was to study 10 random word pairs for a minute, and the objective was to remember as many pairs as possible after a 5-minute period. So the results of the first mental test, the Haling's test, as sleep deprivation increased, the time it took to complete the sentences increased as well. The results for the memory test, so what this shows is that the first week I remembered 8 pairs on 7.5 hours of sleep. The second week I remembered 7 pairs on 8.5. And the third week I remembered 6 pairs on 6.5, and so on. And there's almost like a downward pattern here as sleep deprivation increased. So physical test. So the first physical test was a heart rate recovery time test. The format is 2 1-mile runs. The first was at a normal pace, and the second was as fast as possible. The objective was to track your heart rate compared to the number of hours of sleep deprivation. So the second physical test was a weightlifting test, the rate of increase. So the format was 4 sets of 12 repetitions for each workout. The objective is to track muscular strength increase compared to the sleep deprivation. So the results for the heart rate recovery time test. For the natural pace, there's downward trend, I think, is just due to my heart getting into better shape as I continue to run. Not sure, I think it's pretty independent of the deprivation. The heart recovery time for the fast pace, Not really any noticeable patterns in these results here. Not sure why. So the physical test results. So the weightlifting rate of increase results. I think the rate of increase was as expected and completely independent of sleep deprivation. So the application in the real world. So two school districts in Minnesota changed their start time back by 1 hour due to a study performed by the University of Minnesota. And the University of Minnesota's research uncovered that 20% of students fell asleep in the first class because their brains were still producing melatonin, the neurohormone involved in the sleep and wake cycle. So the results. So 1 year after the start time change, 7,000 students reporting earning higher grades, and depression and dropout rates decreased as well. So in Boston schools, so charter schools in Boston that started later than the public schools in 2012 scored higher in every section of the MCAS for every grade level. So how could this be? It could be due to many factors, including the student-teacher ratio or the selectivity of the schools, but I believe it's due to sleep debt. So sleep debt is acquired when one sleeps less than needed. It's borrowed sleep that you owe your body in order to function at your full potential. So in Newton schools, so for the people that think the charter schools have higher scores due to their selective nature, the same results are apparent in Newton. Brown Middle School starts 30 minutes later than Oak Hill and scored 4% higher in English, 2% higher in math, and 6% higher in science in last year's MCAS. The student population and teacher-student ratio at Brown and Oak Hill are nearly identical, leaving the starting time as the only variable. So sleep debt in Newton. In 1 week, Oak Hill students have acquired 2.5 hours of sleep debt compared to Brown students. In a month, it'll be 10 hours. In a term, 25 hours. And in a school year, nearly 100 hours of sleep debt. So the problem is that schools start too early. And the solution is to change school starting times later by an hour. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Time for Q&A. In finding, no pattern in the
Heart rate?
Yeah, the heart rate and all the results and stuff. And did any of your research, any of the readings that you did or anything sort of speak to that? If for several months, would there have been a connection?
I couldn't find anything on it. I was doing that one based off personal experience because I know that when I go into like a wrestling match and I on not enough sleep, I tend to get out of breath more and just I'm just tired. And I didn't know if it was because my heart's not pumping correctly and the oxygen's not getting to my muscles or something. I wasn't sure if that was maybe because of sleep debt. So
we often tell our students like the night before a test, get a lot of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So it might just be that, like a one-off,
right. Yeah.
Like the night before. There's not a continued.
Yeah.
Hi. Kind of related to that, you mentioned that you think the change that you noticed, it wasn't due to the sleep debt. Was running something that you had done anyway? Because you mentioned that your body might have just gotten in better shape.
I was training for the marathon when I was doing it, so it was like my heart was just getting in better shape, I think, and that's what caused the problem there. So.
Okay. Do you think, or can you imagine a way to perform that experiment such that that variable would not be a factor?
Yeah, I think I'd have to have like a lot more people do it, and then of all different fatness in shapeness, and then have them all run it and then see how that works, the test. Yeah.
So why do different age groups need different amounts of sleep? I've always wondered that.
Yeah, well, I know infants, they needed more sleep because they cry a lot and use a lot of energy and they need to grow and whatever. But adults, I'm not sure why they need less. I would have thought that as you get older, you need more sleep because you can do more, but I don't know, yeah.
Because the reason I'm asking is I'm trying to get my mind around I'm actually, for the first time in my life, kind of looking for more science kind of on this, like in the circadian rhythm part was kind of done quick, so I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it, like, we all know that we do better with sleep.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of want to know why exactly, and so I don't know what you can speak to that.
Well, I know that when you have more sleep, your body has more energy, and then with more energy, you can just do more. You can think more clearly, memory consolidation, you can just make your reaction times quicker, like everything is just on key and better. Yeah.
Thank
had you spoken to, I mean, certainly this is anything that's based on experiment, like you did a variety of experiments, it's going to be something that the variables, especially and when it's related to human behavior, there's tons of variables to consider. I'm wondering if you had any, or what kind of background or what kind of support or advice you had. Because like say, comparing Brown versus Oak Hill, you said other than the starting times, there was no other variables, except for the fact that it's an entirely different group of kids. Maybe these kids are just smarter than those kids.
Well,
how do you...
Well, the thing was that it's not really an entirely different group of kids because it's pretty similar. I mean, it's public school, so it's just like where they live, I guess. But it's all in Newton, and it's the same teachers. I mean, the public schools in Boston and the charter schools, those were the different kids. So I started there, and then I realized that like that could have been to the selectivity that was causing the problem there, or causing the results there. But then when I moved to the Newton schools, because it's pretty similar, the kids there are pretty similar.
Yes and no, but they're actually different human beings.
Right,
There's
yeah.
no way to.
But I mean, every grade level, every MCAS. I mean, it was, I don't know. It could definitely be that, but it's what I had found, and I think it's from the deprivation. Yeah.
What are you doing next year?
College-wise, I'm going to the University of Western Ontario. Up in Canada.
That's outside of our box.
Yeah, it's
What part of Canada is that? I'm not,
Western Ontario, so it's like Midwest kind of. Yeah, it's like above.
This is where I'm at. Where's Ontario?
Oh, all right. So Ontario,
It's
yeah,
north, right?
northwest of us. So it's like,
You mean like New York and the Great Lakes?
yeah,
Okay.
it's on the other side of Lake Ontario.
Okay.
How many hours drive is that?
To Toronto, it's 10 hours, and then to Western, it's like 11 and a half.
You going back a time zone?
No,
No.
it's right on the edge there.
You're
Though.
still at 7?
Yeah.
Western Ontario.
Yeah.
What time do their classes start?
I don't know.
And it's a requirement, it can still be at 8 o'clock. How did senior year project stretch you, help you learn something new about yourself as a learner, as a person, thinking?
The public speaking part,
Say more?
I really don't enjoy it, and I don't know, it's made me a little more comfortable with it. Yeah, definitely gotten better at it from the 3 presentations I've done. But, yeah.
You have lots of company around that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.